Hey guys, what are you doing?
Hey.
Hey, we've just been so stressed. We have all this homework,
These tests.
these assignments, and we're just shopping because isn't that what you're here to talk about?
Retail therapy.
Retail therapy?
No, silly! It's reality therapy!
Oh!
Okay, reality therapy. So, where did it come from? Who originated it? Let's get down to the nitty gritty.
William Glasser.
The
That was
man
that
we
man.
call William Glasser.
And quotes that reality therapy is to take responsibility and control of your own life and face the consequences of your actions. It's the common sense approach to counseling.
And I feel like this type of therapy can kind of take a cognitive behavioral approach, but it more focuses on the realistic and realism, and primarily is treating difficult clients.
Yeah, helping them realize that they're not victims. They can take control of their own
They
behaviors.
have options available to them.
Yeah. And that there is hope. You know, obviously we're living in the present. The goal is to create a better present and future and leave the past in the past.
That was a big thing that he had talked about.
Yeah.
Is leaving
Living in the moment.
yeah, and leaving everything that
What
was
a
in
good
the past.
motto. What a guy.
Yeah, realism, all about that. I mean, here we have the realistic hypothesis. You want to go over that, Minky?
So the realist hypothesis is that we live in a real world.
Oh, real world.
Okay. And objective reality exists, and the more accurate our appraisal of this reality, the higher our chances to adapt successfully to it and maintain a good mental health. Conversely, misperceptions of this reality would lead us to experience negative emotions and interpersonal outcomes.
Yeah, so just bouncing off that, I mean, reality therapy, it is very limited in the research, but with the populations that it is used for, it is extremely helpful. It's mainly used for populations that they consider like acting out or delinquents, so youth or adults, that could be like school-age students, a lot of like prison inmates. But pretty much that's the main group. It's all about, in the therapy session, about establishing an alliance and just kind of helping the clients return back to successful cognitive behavioral techniques.
And the therapists are actually like really good. They use like a lot of their skills and ideas to confront the reality more effectively to their clients. So like they use their natural self, they'll use humor, sarcasm in very personal ways, and I feel like it's good because it really like connects with the client.
It's definitely important that the counselors are bringing client awareness to the consequences of their actions. And it's through really the client's control on how they perceive and move forward for their goals in the future.
Yeah, and after establishing a working alliance through reality therapy, you can return to cognitive behavioral techniques.
So a lot of the tools that are used, they could use role playing, systemic planning, instruction, help them, like for instance with like prison inmates, establishing intentional living. And a lot of times this is done with people who are in power situations. So if it's a prisoner, it's typically done with like a prison guard, or if it's done with a student, it might also be done with a principal as like the therapist role. This way that this person in power can kind of be themselves but use their genuineness and authenticity to kind of like control the situation and the conversation.
And going off of that, you had talked about that this is good for school age. I actually had found an article that reality therapy was used in adolescent girls with anxiety that were school aged, and it showed that it was really effective. They used 20 students were selected who gained high anxiety scores with the depression, anxiety, and stress scale. And they received the 2 hours of it, and it showed an overall increase in emotional and social adjustment. So it's good.
Yeah. It's all about focusing on being conscious and using planned behavior, and the overall goal is to just consider that the past is the past. That's what's done, and the present and the future is what's important, because it's all about focusing on responsibility and choice and taking responsibility, being in control. And that kind of leads us into the control theory that Glasser kind of connected into this therapy.
Yeah, it's very important for clients to like examine their lives also, so they can see how you know, their behavior that they're doing is destructive to like the world and themselves.
And what consequences
Yep.
they bring to
Awareness
the
of it.
actions.
Yeah, and they have to realize that, you know, their relationships with other people are very important as well as like the trust.
Yeah, and so
how,
like,
how are they gonna build relationships if, you know, their behavior is, you know,
Yeah.
out of control?
yeah, and then did we talk about the factors of that? The warmth, respect, did we talk about that or no? No, warmth, respect, caring for others, positive regards, interpersonal openness. It's all about building that trust and relationship. That's the most important part. And then with the consequences, you kind of have to ask the question, if you do blank, then what are the consequences of these actions? And it kind of helps individuals learn that they can expect how they act in certain ways. Consequences could be positive, they could be negative. That's where the difference is between reality therapy and then REBT kind of lie, because the consequences for REBT is kind of what's on the inside if someone starts to feel depressed. But then for RT, it's more like what's on the inside, but the main emphasis is that what happens on the inside is also affected by the outside world. And so that's where clients sort of fail to take responsibility and face the reality. I know you did some research on REBT. You want to talk about that?
Well, 1 second. I just want to bring up one more
yeah,
thing
yeah,
that
of
Glasser
course,
was
of
saying. Glasser really emphasized 5 needs that people often go through, and these were love and belonging, which he put as like a primary need. Like, as you said, there needs to be like a connectiveness at a young age, power, fun, survival, and freedom. And it's really with the counselor that they work with a client to kind of find what kind of need are we lacking in, and how can we kind of work through that and lead to a more positive future. So it's those 5 needs.
Yeah.
Now to REBT.
My man.
Take it away.
So I studied the book Feeling Good by David Burns. This is like kind of like my Bible. This is what got me into psychology, and
Interesting.
I made index cards for you guys.
Oh,
Aw.
how fun.
So
Oh,
I worked on
cool.
the.
This is cool.
Okay,
The
so,
heck is that?
so
Can you
this,
explain this?
So the camera.
so I have the acronym JSAD POMO. Here, I'll show you guys.
Up close and personal.
JSAD POMO.
So fun.
Okay,
Smells
so
like fresh
Cool.
coffee.
so there's 10 cognitive distortions in CBT, and each letter represents a specific cognitive distortion. Whenever I would try to remember every cognitive distortion off the top of my head, I would always forget one. So I created this acronym to remember all 10. So I was like thinking that we could go over each cognitive distortion, and then we could share how we also experience each
Oh,
yeah, I like that.
I'll just start with the first. I'll go letter by letter.
Okay.
So the first letter is J, which means jumping to conclusions. So 2 ways of jumping to conclusion is mind reading or predicting the future. So mind reading, it's like, oh, this person thinks I'm a loser, this person thinks I'm stupid, this person thinks I'm awkward. So like, I do a lot of mind reading, and I feel
Like
like,
making assumptions almost.
yeah,
You
exactly.
kind of think you kind of think that others are thinking bad about you. Is that kind of what
Yeah,
it is?
exactly. And I have no idea what you're actually thinking
Of
about me, but
course.
I'm making all these assumptions in my head. And I feel like a lot of people who are approval addicts, like I think I'm an approval addict. I want to be like loved and have everyone's approval.
Yes.
They do a lot of mind reading. So,
Okay.
do you guys like do a lot of mind reading?
Yeah, I guess.
I feel like a lot of people just jump to conclusions in general because they're just like concerned how other people, you know, are thinking about them. But in reality, like most of the time, people are not actually like thinking of you in their head. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also to bring that back to reality therapy, it is emphasized for this therapy that the choice is ours and that we are in control. And so like relating
Control
to
is
that,
very
like
important
it's
aspect.
all like we have control of that. Like we don't need to base ourselves based on what other people say. Like it's all us.
You have to just control like your thoughts. Like,
Exactly.
It's all in your head.
We can control our addictions, our fate, our joy, positivity. Like we don't need to really.
But we also have to own up to that.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
And kind of identify it.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then the other one is predicting the future, just assuming that the worst is going to happen.
Yep.
So this is where a lot of my anxiety comes from. Like, oh, I'm going to bomb this test. Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
the
Guilty.
social event I'm going to go to is going to be so awkward, and just like assuming the worst. But I can't predict the future. Like,
I
don't
do
know.
that too because of a past experience. So I kind of had then learned from that to kind of move forward to help me in the future.
Mm. Yeah.
So I'm gonna just briefly describe each distortion. So the A stands for all or nothing thinking. So you only see the world in black or white. You don't see shades of gray, and this is not fitting into reality because the world is in black and white. D is disqualifying the positive, so you don't see any of the good in life. So any positive experience, you'll just turn it into negative. So like culturally, like when people give you compliments, you're not supposed to accept them. It's like, oh, you look good today, and you're just like, oh, you're just saying that, like you don't really mean it, but like we should just like accept compliments. That's just like one example. Personalization is when you blame yourself. So another way to describe personalization is self-blame or other blame. So you blame yourself for things that aren't your fault.
Could that come from like a lack of self-esteem, kind of?
Yeah, definitely. And then the O stands for overgeneralization. So you experience one negative event and you think this is going to be a never-ending pattern. So let's say I ask someone else out on a date, they say no, then I just assume everyone is going to say no. M stands for magnification or minimization. So this is also catastrophic thinking, just like one little negative event you just blow way out of proportion. A mental filter is when you only see the negative in your life. It's like very similar to disqualifying the positive. You don't see any of the positive and you only focus on the negative. E stands for emotional reasoning. This is when you consider your feelings to be facts, even though feelings aren't facts. So like, let's say you feel like nobody loves you, even though many people love you. Like your emotion in that case is not a fact. And L stands for labeling. So like you can label yourself as stupid or like awkward or a loser. And it's a cognitive distortion because like human beings are like statues. We should think of ourselves as like more like rivers. Like our thoughts, our emotions, our behaviors are constantly changing, and to think that we're just one thing is not an accurate representation of who we are. So those are the 10 cognitive distortions.
Wow.
Interesting.
REBT.
I feel like that's a lot of people can relate to that. I feel like
Definitely, yeah.
And it also comes back to CBT, I feel like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, so the control theory pretty much says that therapists insist that clients own their thoughts, behaviors, and feelings, and they're responsible for them. So that kind of talks about positive addictions and negative addictions.
Right.
Like
so-
they can exert control towards unsatisfactory ends, but they can reframe control more positively.
And these positive addictions are, anything a client does to gain like a high, but more in like a healthy way. So this could be hanging out with friends, exercising,
Going
anything
to
in a
the
healthy
movies.
way.
Meditation.
Positive addiction.
Meditation, yeah.
Yes.
And then, but for negative, it could be like getting headaches or coping with drugs and alcohol, you know? But again, the choice is ours. We could do whatever we want. We are in control, and we need to face reality. And sometimes when people do drugs and alcohol, that's a way of avoiding facing it because they don't want to be confronted with it. But
Yeah,
that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah.
And with the relationship between like the therapist and the client, they need to help recognize.
Ultimately, we make our choices, we're in control, and it's through the counselor and the client's relationship that they come together, identify it, and then work on ways to help their future.
And bringing up how you said, how they turn on drugs and alcohol, like, these individuals do drink a lot to like block out the inadequacy they feel, and that they need not exist, and they can like learn to be different. And I know suicide is a very like upsetting topic to talk about, but in reality, like a lot of people choose suicide because they don't want to face the reality of like all their problems, and they don't want to solve their problems, which is like really sad.
Yeah, and that kind of relates to the idea of like the internal reality and the external. And the internal is more of like the mind or cognitions, and we have to be able to understand how the individual relates our internal to the external reality, because what we think inside is going to be possessed towards the outside world too.
Yes.
So just to like bounce off that, we have the world view of reality therapy, which is that people can do something about their fate if they will consider themselves in their environment realistically. Again, with just living in the moment, being aware of our surroundings, acknowledging the present, and not denying it, which is very common for clients to do, often deny reality. And so that's why therapy can be successful, when individuals are able to really give up their denial of the world and recognize that reality does exist, but we have to fulfill the needs of the reality within it.
And I think that the goal of the therapist is to show the client that their view of the world isn't based in reality, and even though the client may think their view of the world is based in reality, you have to pinpoint exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, just to bring it all together, with reality therapy, it's all just about being direct and forceful with our confrontations, and just having these thought patterns, and again, with being in control and recognizing that this is our life.
This is reality.
This is reality.
Minky, my favorite student.
Hi, Principal Nolan.
Oh boy, that's not the reaction I was hoping for.
What reaction were you looking for?
Why so down in the dumps?
I hate school.
Hates. Carry on.
The teachers suck here, the students suck. Just everything sucks.
My school, you're disgracing? Tell me about it. What's going on?
Miss Johnson sent me in here. She says I'm failing the class. I don't know what that means.
Failing? Well, are you?
I guess so.
So you're failing the class. All right, let's see. Let's pull up your attendance. Seems as though you haven't been showing up much. What's going on, bud?
I don't know, just school's so boring. Like, I hate school. Like, the teachers don't make it fun, the students don't make it fun. Just everything sucks.
I don't like seeing you like that. Maybe I can help. Let's see. What's your favorite subject?
Favorite subject. Favorite subject. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Favorite subject. You really stumped me here. I mean, favorite subject. I don't think I have a favorite subject, but I like seeing my friends at recess. Honestly, every subject is a drag. The teachers really suck here. I hate them. They're all interested in my classmates more than me.
Well, maybe that's how you feel, but I mean, for me, I've known Miss Johnson personally for years, and although you might think that, in reality, she's only here to help you.
Well, I really don't believe you. Like, she never calls on me when I raise my hand, and she's always yelling at me. Like just today, like she yelled at me for not doing my homework.
Well, shouldn't you did you do the homework?
I mean, I guess not, but stupid anyways. Like, nothing on the homework is ever on the test.
So you had a test recently. How'd you do on that, man?
I failed.
Did you study at all? Did Miss Johnson maybe provide you with a study guide, some materials to help?
Yeah, she did provide me with a study guide, but it was like 10 pages long. Like, I don't have the time to read a 10-page long study guide. I have friends, I have soccer practice. Like, she's just not being realistic. Like, I don't know what she was thinking.
Well, I mean, it seems as though you maybe could have taken a little action to prepare for the exam a little better, but you chose not to. But how about we consider some options to help you prepare a little better for the next exam? I mean, as a principal, I require my teachers to offer in the office hours and extra help. Maybe does Miss Johnson offer extra help during the week at all?
Let me think about it. Yeah, she does, but I can't go. I got soccer practice.
Well, I mean, I love that you're involved in extracurricular activities, but what time is soccer practice and what time is extra help?
Let me think. Soccer starts at 4 o'clock and extra help starts at 3:15, and I need the time to eat.
Well, maybe we do a little compromise here. Why don't you possibly bring your snack to extra help and you can munch a little while you're studying and doing reviewing the material with Miss Johnson? How does that sound?
Actually, that kind of makes sense. I guess I could do that. I really didn't think of that.
Great. You know, that's one piece of responsibility that you can take. And after getting into the routine of going to extra help each week, how do you think you could take control to help prepare for your next exam and then improve your test grade?
I guess I could join a study group with some of my friends. Instead of throwing the study guide in my backpack, I could actually read it through a couple days in advance. But honestly, it's not my fault if she makes a difficult exam.
Well, I mean, we do need to realize that at the end of the day, you are the one taking the exam, and it's your responsibility. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I just want what's best for your future. So taking responsibility will only make your life more fulfilling and enriching.
Wow, that's a really good point. You know, this conversation was actually pretty helpful. I'll take some of these suggestions and put them to use and get back to you.
Good, Minky. I love to hear that.
Okay.
The success of my students. Rock on.
Okay, so in this role play that we just saw, we see a relationship between a principal and a student. This shows that reality therapy can take place in such settings like a classroom and take place with any sort of an individual.
So we saw a student getting confronted with a situation of his poor performance in his teacher's classroom, and the principal helped the student take responsibility of his actions and work on strategies to prepare for future exams.
And such strategies that we're told were to attend extra help, use the study guides that were not being used, which could help to improve his exam grades in the future.
And then at one point, Minky directed control to Miss Johnson by stating that the exams are made too difficult, but Principal Mullins confronted this behavior of putting blame on someone else, and then at the end of the day, he is the one taking the exam, and Principal Mullins helped him realize this.
So it's really important that realist therapists be their authentic self, which is exactly what we saw, and this helps to gain trust and comfort in the student and principal relationship.
This role play demonstrated the worldview of reality therapy and that people can do something about their fate if they put themselves first and view their environment realistically.